F. Kennedy was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1917. His father was Joseph Patrick Kennedy, a wealthy businessman whose friendship with Franklin D. Roosevelt would be several appointments to the federal government. Joseph sent his sons to the prestigious Chiota School preparatory boarding school in Connecticut. There was John, earned a reputation as mischief maker. He was a mediocre student, especially in comparison to his more academic-minded older brother, Joe Jr. John's teachers remembered him as intelligent but unwilling to apply himself to anything that did not interest him. He loved literature and poetry, particularly the poems Robert Frost. Kennedy appears to have developed his trademark charm early. Despite his lackluster academic performance, his classmates voted him the most likely to succeed. He was to prove them persist. In 1937, President Roosevelt named Joseph Kennedy Senior Ambassador to Great Britain, now at Harvard. John had continued to an average student. A visit to his father in London, however, sharpened to his focus. Kennedy realized the dire situation Europe was facing and becoming more aware of and interested in politics, international affairs. He turned to Harvard with renewed focus. After graduating in 1940, Kennedy joined the U.S. Naval Reserve during World War II. He commanded a torpedo boat in the South Pacific. His older brother, Joe Jr., also joined the Navy, which sent him to England as part of Bomber Squadron. The family had always expected Joe Jr. to be to go into politics. His death on a mission in 1944, one of the many tragedies the Kennedy family would endure, brought that dream to an end. It now fell to his brother John to join family business. In 1946, the people of Massachusetts elected Kennedy to the House of Representatives. In 1952, he went on a Senate. In 1960, at 43 years old of age, John F. Kennedy was elected President of the United States. Kennedy was the youngest but the first Catholic ever elected president. Some dismissed him due to his age or distrusted him due to religion. This may have felt he had shown his strength, particularly in matters concerning the communist threat and relations which the Soviet Union had plenty opportunities. Kennedy's presidency saw continuation of the Vietnam War, the invasion of Bay Pigs, the building of Berlin Wall. Perhaps his greatest trial was Cuban Missile Crisis, 13 days in October of 1962 that brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. Another major issue during Kennedy's time in office was civil rights. Initially, his relations with civil rights leaders, while strained, the president feared protests were angering white people would make it harder to pass legislation. Some activists felt that he was not doing enough to aid their cause, but increasing violence in South and refusal of authorities in Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, also elsewhere to disintegrate their schools forced Kennedy to act. His administration drafted the legislation that would go on to becoming the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Kennedy did not live to see bill's passage on November 22, 1963, in Dallas, Texas. Lee Harvey Oswald shot and killed the president as he rode by his motorcade. An investigation determined that Oswald's allegiance to communism was his primary motivation. Oswald had claimed his innocence before he himself was killed. 2 days after the assassination, over years, historians and others have thoroughly scrutinized that day's events. Some claim to have found inconsistencies in assassination timeline. This continuation has led to several conspiracy theories, none of which have been proven. The speech. John F. Kennedy was intent on becoming a good orator, but the gift did not come naturally to him. He practiced endlessly, though Ted Sorensen, his speechwriter, composed most of his speeches. Kennedy himself would revise and revise. His archived documents showed hundreds of changes made to early drafts. Kennedy began gathering ideas and working on his inaugural address as early as November of 1960. He had Sorensen score the Gettysburg Address and past inaugurals for inspiration, and asked dozens of people for suggestions, including clergymen whom he asked for relevant Bible quotations, like Martin Luther King Jr. Kennedy departed from the scripture during his delivery. In all, he made 32 more spontaneous changes. One of these resulted in this speech's most famous line: "Ask not what your country can do for you, as you can do for your country." Due in part the enduring appeal, we often remember Kennedy's address as call to public service and national unity. However, its content focuses more on foreign policy than anything else, in reiteration of Kennedy's commitment to leadership and pledge to halt the spread of communism. With the worst horrors of Vietnam War yet to come, Kennedy expresses his hope for winning the goodwill of the world. Having just one of the narrowest electoral victories in history, Kennedy has badly needed support at home. His speech had desired effect. After its delivery, the newly minted president's approval rating rose to nearly 65%, 75%. At 1,366, Kennedy's speech is among the shortest inaugural addresses in history. It was the first broadcast on television in color, drawing at home audience of 60 million. He was the first inauguration ceremony to feature a poet, the 86-year-old Robert Frost, whom Kennedy had long admired, who recited his poem, The Gift, outright. The president's love of literature had finally resulted in creation of his own great work, which generations will continue to admire for years to come.